Yeah.
Okay, you're good to go.
So it was only the intro. And if people don't want to be recorded, please turn your camera off or say, but it'll just be shared amongst the participants, and maybe we'd put a longer thing together with your consent towards the end. For people to know, you will get a feedback form about the sessions. You'll also get a copy of the presentation, and there will, at the end of it, be a full summary of all 5 groups. So the first, although they call it 7 RIBA stages, there is a strategic definition, which sort of links to the group forming, deciding what they want to do, and then preparation and brief, which links to the visioning and aims and objectives of that group. So it's important that you have an idea of what you want to do before you brief and engage with an architect. You may not actually need an architect, we'll come to that, if you're going to do self-build or you're going to do something else. And then around the site, you come up with a concept design, and I will be going through all of these in details in each workshops, 2 of the 8 bits together. And then into more developed design as things move on, as you plan it, and it changes from being an idea to something physical that you can put out to tender or start constructing. And then you move into the build stage on the community-led housing total process, which is what it says it is. And then you move in and live in it. So that's how I see the RIBA stages working with the community-led housing total process, total plan. Are people happy with that understanding? Has anybody got any different? There may be people in England who have more of an understanding of the total process because they've done it that way, as opposed to the slightly different way that we approach it here in Wales. So if everybody's content, I'll move forward. Move forward. Yeah. I jumped to there. No, that's right. So here in Wales, and apologies for those in Wales that know these, and my colleagues Alan and Claire can expand on these, and it's all on our website anyway, and we will send you a link. It starts with engage, where we engage with people who have an idea. It's rather like the stage 0 of the RIBA, when you're visioning things, just coming up with ideas. You've never even thought of an architect or what the RIBA stages are, and you're starting to develop your own little community. And then we have explore, which is the second stage, where we work in partnership with DTA, which is the Welsh version of locality here in Wales, for those in England who know of locality. And you know a little bit more about what you want to do and say, and we'll help you form your vision and think about how you need to make a community-led housing project happen. If that's what the outcome of your visioning is, you may think, well, yeah, I want to achieve this, and it doesn't need to be housing co-op, it can be something else to get the community going, but hopefully it will be a housing-led community regen project. And then when DTA have helped you, they can give you mentor support, you'll be helped by the enabling team in the Wales Cooperative Centre, doing community creating homes. All our advisor team are fully accredited with the CCH as accredited advisors, and we have a wealth of experience as well on top of that recent qualification. So we'll help you go through the process, finding a site development partner. It could be an architect you haven't engaged before, housing association, local authority, and will enable you through the bottom half of the circle. I'll show you that on the next slide. And then when you're in the properties and moving in, we can expand your vision to the next scheme. And the finally is educate and influence. So it's 5 E's and an I. And the cooperative principles are that you network with people, you share your experience, and you learn from people, and that's how you will. That's how you started. And so it comes back in, you engage, you re-engage yourselves, and it's the same with the RIBA process. It's a reiterative process, and you move on to the next scheme. So this is how I see it fitting in. So engage and explore with the centre and DTA in the first part, with DTA, and Nicola Perkins is on here. And if you've got any specific questions, we can answer that as well. And then the bottom half of the circle, concept design, develop design, technical, is all the enabling. We enable you to do it with us together. It's a reciprocal process. We can't do it all for you, and you can't do it all, but we can help each other and make it fun and enjoyable along the way. And then we help you move in, and you get to expand, educate, and influence. So that completes the circle, and then you may want to go and look at the next phase. We've helped a small housing co-op in Swansea. They had one property. They're now looking at another. They have already got another property, so they're going through the process again. So that is fine. Nicola, do you need or want to say anything else on explore?
No, I think you've covered it, Dave. Thank you.
Well, that's it. Well, feel free to shout at me. It's interactive. So next one is the plan of work stages. It's a sort of deliberately blurry picture because there's a lot of detail on there. But just to let you know that, as I said, there are 8 stages, and different parties have different activities to do at different stages. You know, the architect, yourself, the structural engineer, and whatever. It outlines all the stages from planning, design, and it's been used for architects for 50, 60 years. There was the previous stage from 63. Oh, excuse that phone. I can't switch. It will go dead. Apologies for that. I have to sit close to the BT telephone hub to get reception. So that worked. They didn't leave a message, so that's okay. So back to the RIBA plan of work. It's often used by architects, but isn't necessarily understood by clients or community housing groups because they don't use it every day. They don't see it every day. Through the workshops, I'll introduce you to each stage and help you navigate through the 8 stages and explain what the architect and the consultant and the community-led housing group should or could be doing. I don't know whether Lydia from Bronfleece is on the call, but they had an architect on their board initially and did some work. And I don't know whether Lydia or the group knew of the RIBA plan of stages. They knew the drawings, but maybe we can find that out. So introducing the stages in more detail. And as I say, this is the first of 5 workshops, and this is the introduction one, and then we'll go through each of the groups of 2. So it gives guidance on the project management and an overall structure. It is adaptable to project specific needs and varies to the size and scope of the scheme and the cost of it. It's quite an onerous document, but if you're doing a £30 million project with 17 consultants, you will need that far more than if it's just a small group with 2 or 3 people and 4 houses. And as I say, the plan has been going for a good number of years, and it reflects RIBA's requirement to get net zero carbon by 2030, which is probably in advance of some things, but behind what social housing or community-led housing schemes strive to achieve. They want to be zero carbon from day one. If you're designing something now and then you have to retrofit or refurb it in 10, 15 years to get it to meet zero carbon, that's more expensive than doing it now from day one. So at stage 1, the plan encourages the development of a high level, measurable and ambitious and unambiguous project sustainability outcomes. Because although there's capital cost of a building in the first place, it's the revenue costs over 120 years and the carbon in that part of it that is the true cost of the building and to the environment. And my colleague Alan, who's on here, he worked at the CAT for 10 years, so he understands the principle of life cycle costing and the long-term costs of a project. I don't know if I want to say any more, Alan, or you okay?
And I'm okay, thanks, Stephen. But I can try and answer questions.
So we'll move on. So this is a slide of how I see it all working. It's a picture, and I think in pictures, being an architect, is how it will all work. We're doing the introduction, and the numbers at the end of it will be the slides from the total presentation. There's 46 slides. I'm not going to do all 46 today. We're doing 15 today. And you will have a record at the end. Anybody who's attended will have a record of the whole thing, a shortened form, but there will be a record of each session as we go forward. The next session will be on the first 2 in more detail: strategic definition, preparation and brief. 3rd stages, concept design, develop design. 4th stage, technical design and construction, and then the final one, handover and close out, and then in use. It'd be great if you could attend all 5, and they will be short sessions. or you may choose, I just want to dip in and out and I only want to find out about technical design and tendering, or just how to live in it. It's up to you to dip in, but you will have access to the whole thing. Just one thing before I move on to the other things I should mention: our sponsors, our partners. Already mentioned DTA in the bottom right-hand corner. The project is funded by the Nationwide Foundation, which is a charitable arm from the Nationwide Building Society, and we have support from the Welsh Government, and we're hopeful that that funding will continue to the new Senedd. And as I said at the outset, we work for the Wales Cooperative Centre. So I'd like just to share some pictures of, and drawings with you of some community-led housing schemes in Wales that we've helped over the last eight years since we've been doing the project, just to give you a flavour of what the RIBA stages will be, and it's a picture that you can remember. This particular scheme is in Carmarthen, and it starts off as a cooperative housing pilot in Ammanford, where they chose to put 27 homes on a rural site by the level crossing, by the crossroads there, the train crossing there, level crossing, if those of you know Ammanford. But there was a change of site, and it came into a site on the edge of Carmarthen, which the executive of the council held rather than the housing department. And it was called Jobswell Road, and it leads up to the university. So let's just give a location of it, and then there are some photos of the site. And going back, you'll see where the photos 1, 2, 3, and 4 are taken on the right-hand side. So one, as you drive in, there's a small little council extra care building, supported housing. There's 2 small photos of it, no real vernacular there. There's housing on the other side of the road as you come in, and they were parking underneath the trees in 3. And my daughter, who's an ecologist, said, "Oh, they didn't chop those trees down, they didn't build there, did they?" But they did, and you can see the cars hiding underneath the trees. And then there's a layout where the 27 homes from Ammanford came through to this Carmarthen site. Single access hammerhead down the back of the site, and access off the road at the front, the bottom of the scheme. A mixture of houses, the light blue or green houses, a 4-bed. There's some 3-bed, and there's some 2-bed as well, smaller 2-bed there. In terms of the design, it would have been ideal if there could have been some communication between the front road and the hammerhead as a cooperative scheme, but it was a sloping site, and there's gabions along here. It was difficult to communicate up and down. As I say, the trees were taken out across the front. We preserved the hedge along the side, but then when people moved in, they were worried about the hedge dying and falling onto the houses, so that was trimmed. This, let's just jump to a architect's perspective of it. It was prepared by Rio Architects in Cardiff, and this is their picture of it. And you'll note the little house or big house behind, of which this was part of the vegetable garden back 200 years ago. So that's still there, and that was the architect's impression of it. And then this is a photo of it as completed. and you can just about see the house behind the tree. It's looking down the road, the top road, and apart from the colour of the bricks, it looks very similar to what the architect envisaged it to be. It started off as a tenant management co-op, and it has reverted back to general needs, but to general management. But you can see, the physical structure there. There was a small communal area down at the bottom of the site, down there, which could have been more of a community space. And for those who were on the previous network event, it's about placemaking. And I think if there's a communal space or something that the community or the cooperative can look after, that's a focal point for the cooperative to coalesce around and work with and sustain itself. So, that's observations, a learned lesson from this particular stages. So that's my brief introduction. It's a lovely sunny afternoon, and I'm sure we all want to go and have another cup of coffee or get out. So has anybody got any questions that they want to ask from about any of the slides or about the process? Is that what you expect? Is that what you want to see as we develop the workshops going forward? Some slide with text and then pictures, drawings. That's how I envisage it moving forward. Happy for feedback.
I think there's a question from Hannah in the chat, Dave, about whether we know what the criteria is for zero carbon.
The criteria for zero carbon is being discussed and defined at the moment. It's very difficult as to whether it's zero carbon of just the construction, zero carbon of the construction with the embedded carbon in the materials that are used on site and where concrete has come from, or as I was saying, the wider long-term use. I mean, they're producing cars now allegedly that will be zero carbon, and there are certainly homes which are power stations. Pobble Group are building some with Swansea University and British Steel or Tata that contribute back. Whether they've taken into account the embedded carbon in the concrete in the foundations, or they've used eco concrete, although it's not very ecological anyway. And it depends on how the building is used in its life. You can have all the technology there, but if people, the residents, circumvent it or go around it and don't use it, so they need to be committed themselves to saving the environment. So short answer is no, I'm not aware that they have defined zero carbon. The RIBA may have a picture of it, but certainly the Housing Association, community-led housing movement hasn't defined what it is. One Planet Development will have their own view of it. So I'll stop sharing my screen. I can see you there. So I say that's a short half hour. We've got as long as you want to talk and discuss it, but I was thinking 5-10 minutes, and then we can move on to the other things we do when we come back in a week's time to have another quick update on it.